I'm Natalia Lobach, and this is Change Course. Subculture Club. Building an incredible subculture inside an organization is possible. And it's not just possible, it's necessary for when you want really transformational initiatives to succeed. Your transformation team is where you're going to build that incredible subculture. And you want to make sure that you've got incredible relationships, a high level of trust, and the ability to execute and really get things done, especially when your team is going to come up against points of friction in the dominant culture. They need a safe place and a safe space to return to. If you want them to be successful, you've got to build this for them as a change leader and as a transformation leader. I'm going to tell you a story today about how we did that at one of the amazing clients that I've had the pleasure to work with. And I was reminded of this because I worked very closely in this initiative with an incredible technical project manager. She was one of the most competent, strongest individuals that I have ever had the pleasure to work with. And I would, in a heartbeat, work with her again. We recently went out to lunch. It's been a while since we've seen each other for a number of reasons. And she reminded me about what she likes to call the donut story. So I think she would call it donut mind if you do, or donut mind if I do. I would probably call it donut stop believin'. Okay, that's enough puns for today. But the bottom line is this was all about creating a safe and protected space for our incredible transformation team and ensuring that they knew we had their backs and that they had a safe place to be, especially when they were coming up against some of those resistant stakeholders, some of those parts of the culture that were going to naturally resist this change that we were building. Okay, as an aside, I have a Labrador retriever. She is an 80-pound yellow lab, and she likes to come in my office and sometimes take a nap. And so if you hear any deep breathing or snoring going on in the background, just know that it's just her. She's pleasantly and blissfully asleep right now. And I think she just came back from an incredible run at the park with her doggy pack. And she's just taken a moment like we should all do. But just in case you hear some of those weird noises, I just want you to know that it was her. Okay, back to the story. So this transformation team that I was working with, I was the change lead. We were working inside a team that was made up of a bunch of really amazing HR professionals and a bunch of really incredible IT and technical professionals. And we had a huge, huge mandate in front of us. What had happened since I had joined the project was that the organization was hit with two major crises. And we were just constantly getting these giant waves of crisis washing over us. This was before the plague, so you can only imagine what happened when the plague hit. But it was just one of those things and one of those circumstances where we were constantly struggling to make up time and constantly struggling to make up morale because we had a number of things happen to us that we couldn't control. First, the company had a cybersecurity incident. I mean, they were hacked. They had ransomware. All of their production systems went down. It was a huge, unexpected, and really difficult thing for the team to move through. Because what happened was we all of a sudden lost half of our team who had to go and support operations. And so we were trying to make things work while this other huge important part of our team was taken away because they had mission critical stuff to do. Then what happened was one of the senior leaders unexpectedly died. And if you've ever experienced that, I have to say, I have never experienced that. That was a first for me. Well, what happens is that when you have an event like that occurs, there are operational ramifications, there are security ramifications, and then there are also the very important personal and emotional things that come when somebody who works with you dies unexpectedly. And when that happened, it was about a month later, after the cybersecurity incident. When it happened, we lost half our team again, but we lost our HR team because our HR team was working on putting together bereavement counseling for staff and working through, the very real and tangible consequences while also having very strong emotional experiences because this person had been an important part of the organization. And so there's a lot of emotion personally that comes from that. But then also, if you're in the professional space of being there for others, setting up bereavement counseling, figuring out how the organization is going to support the family at the funeral, all of these types of questions, it's again mission critical. It took half of our team out again. Just it was the other half this time. So as we're rounding out the next month, morale was pretty low. We realized we were going to miss a deadline. We weren't going to be able to pull it together. We were late. We were just going to be late, and that was it. We couldn't do anything about it. And morale was low. People were having a really hard time. So, of course, me as the change manager and as self-appointed chief culture officer for the team, I know that the road is just going to get harder. Like, we haven't even implemented yet. We're still in the planning and deliberation phases. We're still in those very early stages of change, except for the folks who are working on the design, right? The ones who are in the room every day working on the design, figuring things out. So we were in one of the biggest conference rooms at this was when we still did things in person, okay? So we were in the biggest conference room at this organization, which was the boardroom, and it was on the main floor. And we were visible to a lot of the people who walked by or saw us or who were in the organization working there. One of the benefits of working in the same room with your colleagues for months upon months upon months is that you don't always talk about work. You get to know each other pretty well. And as I got to know people, it turned out that we were all huge foodies. Like, we all had something particular that we were really into around food. And it was just something that a number of the team members had in common. So as we're going through this morale dip, I thought to myself, you know what? I'm going to bring something in. I'm just going to bring something in. We had a big table that was by the door of the conference room that was filled with treats. And the project manager and I would take turns restocking it. And some of the other team members would bring things in. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to bring something in special. We had been talking about one of the best bakeries in Toronto called San Remo. And if you are anywhere in the GTA and you haven't been to San Remo, you are missing out. They're on Royal York Road, for those of you who may be listening from, in and around here. If you ever visit here, go to San Remo. They're at Royal York, just south of Evans Avenue in Etobicoke. It's a bakery. It's been there since the 50s. It's family owned, and it is incredible. What they're known for are their donuts. They are handmade. They have this berry compote that they put in the filling, and it is like homemade and delicious and like nothing you have ever tasted before. You have not had a donut until you've had a San Remo donut. If you don't believe me that these are good, if you show up to the bakery after 10 a.m. on the weekends, there are no more donuts. They open at 8. Like, it's not that long. So, if you want a donut, you gotta go early. You want to pre-order donuts? You better do it a week in advance because the pre-orders sell out too. So it's good. Like, they're really good. And so I live close to the bakery. So I'm like, okay, you know what? I'll drive down there. I'll pick some up before I go in and I will bring them to the team. Well, the first time I tried it was on a Monday. I forgot they were closed on Monday. So then I made a second attempt and I was successful. And in I come with the giant boxes of donuts, and everyone is so excited. This had also happened after we'd had a conversation in the team about just how good the donuts were and how none of us were going to be able to get there because we were working on this project and it was just really wild at the time. And I was like, you know what? I can do it because I was still dropping my kiddo off. And I was like, I can do it. I got time. I can get down there early in the morning. No problem. I'll do it. It's going to be fun. So I walk in with my arms laden with donuts. You should have seen the faces of the team. They were so excited. And not only that, we get to talking about just how great it is. This is going to be incredible. I put the donuts down on the table where we have the treats. And people are starting to get, it's morning. They're like, I don't know if I want some sugar so early. So they're sort of going to wait. They're like, I'm going to save it for later. I'm going to have my afternoon chai. We're going to get some donuts with that. It's going to be incredible. I'm going to wait and it's going to be the best thing I've ever tasted. Let me tell you a little bit about the overall culture at this company. So companies owned by, the company we're working at, we're doing this big project at, is owned by a family. And there are some people who maybe take this idea of family values a little far. The other thing is, as a change manager, you really need to pay attention to the cultural norms that happen in the organization and around you. There was this thing at the organization where you were expected to put leftover food from meetings or any kind of events into the servery. So there was a servery on that main floor where it was like a little, sort of kitchenette area that had like a fridge for people's lunches and a small table, microwave, a sink, that kind of stuff. Like, it wasn't huge, right? It wasn't like a cafeteria where you could sit down and have tables. It was sort of like, I don't know, maybe like 5 people could sort of fit in there at one time, get their business done, and then get out. There was a larger kitchen and eating area on the bottom floor, but no one left kind of the food there because all the conference rooms were on the floor that we were on, especially like the external conference rooms, right? So the cultural norm for the organization was to take the leftover food and put it in the servery when you were done your meeting or your lunch or whatever. You put the leftovers there and people from the organization could come and help themselves. First come, first serve. It was a generous thing, of course, right? But there were some people who pushed this boundary a little bit far. And I would say that it wouldn't be appropriate to invite yourself to a lunch that's happening in the main conference room with a bunch of executives that, you're not invited to. That might be going a little far, right? Now, let me tell you, that didn't happen. But what did happen was, all of a sudden, I'm sitting there, I'm doing my work, and I turn around, and there is some person I've never seen before helping themselves to the donuts. And I'm like, what the heck is going on here? And I look at the project manager, and she just rolls her eyes. And I'm like, oh boy, here we are. Okay, so I get up and I walk over to this person who is helping themselves to our donuts, touching every single one in the box. I mean, this was pre-plague, but man, it was still gross. And I said, excuse me, what are you doing? And he said, what do you mean, what am I doing? I said, these are not for you. They're for the project team who's working here. I'm so sorry, but if they were for everyone, I would have put them in the kitchen. And he looked at me and he said, well, this is a family and I'm entitled to come in here and have whatever I want. I said, did somebody say that was okay for you to do? Because you're not on our team and I haven't seen you in any meetings. And he looked straight at me and he said, well, the blonde girl over there said it was okay. I took a deep breath. The blonde girl, I might add, is a fully grown and emancipated woman who is our main technical project manager. And it would be completely inappropriate to describe a person that you are working with in a professional setting as a blonde girl, just like it would be inappropriate to use any other descriptors of somebody's personal appearance in the workplace. Inappropriate, like bottom line. And so I realize what this is all about. And so I said to him, you can take the donut you have in your hand, but these are not for you. If you like to join our project team, I'm sure we can find a way to have you join it. But you are not to be coming in here and taking things that belong to us if you're not invited. And let me tell you, that started quite a firestorm. But what happened was interesting. And there were two things that really were the fallout of this event. The first was that the team breathed a huge sigh of relief. This person had been coming into their space on a regular basis, taking the food that they had brought for each other, taking the special treats that they brought in for people's birthdays, just helping himself. It was a huge cross of boundaries. It was a huge incursion on their safe space. And when they tried to speak up and say no, this person just steamrolled them, pushed back, threatened to escalate it. It was really, really difficult. The other thing that happened was this incident started a firestorm in the organization because this person went and they told the teacher on me. But the thing was, what had happened that was kind of advantageous was that this had occurred in a public place. We were in the main boardroom. It was part of the organization. There were people walking by all the time. Like, it was not in any way behind a closed door. There were witnesses. And I can't repeat what this person actually had said to me because it would breach the civility level that I have set out for myself on this podcast. But let me tell you, there was raised voices, there were threats, there was inappropriate expression of anger, there was name calling, there was insulting based on my gender. Oh my goodness. Like, you can only imagine what was said. It was pretty awful. And so then, of course, this person, thinking that they're in the right, went and escalated this incident to their superior. And then what happened was that there was a discussion that occurred. And because of what everyone else said that happened, it actually ended up being somewhat of a non-issue for us. We weren't seen as doing anything wrong. That person was absolutely in the wrong and never came back to the conference room again. So, like I said, when you're a change leader and a transformation leader, sometimes these things happen. You're going to occasionally run up against individuals like this one. You're every so often gonna run up against culture, main culture, presiding culture, prevailing culture in the organization that goes against the subculture that you're going to build, and you need to build in order to make the team successful. So what I can tell you is that was a breakthrough day. It was a breakthrough day for the team. Why? Because they realized that everyone in that room had each other's back. And yes, we went into a difficult conversation around what milestones we didn't meet. We went into a different conversation around, a difficult conversation around how the crises had affected us and how we just weren't able to rally, and how as in an integrated team, we really needed to rally and work together. But this was a galvanizing moment. There was a little bit of, as I go back to my biblical stories, the David and the Goliath. Goliath kept coming into the conference room and taking whatever Goliath wanted. And little David came and said, "You can't do that. That's not cool. We're not going to let it happen. You got to stop." And we all realized that we were in it together. I tell this story because, first of all, everyone on the team reminded me how funny it was in retrospect. And because it's such an incredible example of how to build a subculture and how to protect that subculture. If you want to do it, it's not all donuts and cupcakes. Yeah, okay, I know it's about donuts. Okay, it is about donuts. But you've also got to set those boundaries and defend them. And defending them can sometimes be hard. But truthfully, if you stay strong and you stay aligned to your core values and you don't step outside of those, and you know that if something is wrong, it's wrong, and you stand up to that, then you will have earned the trust of the people that you work with and set an example about how you can build and protect a subculture that'll help your team, your transformation team, your most critical and important resources in your change be successful. Thank you for listening. If you liked what you heard, I invite you to like, share, rate, and subscribe because it helps others find us. Change Course is brought to you by Chart House Advisory Services and ConnectedChange.com. Our music is Levity by Emily Clausen. Show notes have moved. We're now at ConnectedChange.com. So visit us there under the Change Course podcast page, and you'll find a list of all the resources that I've mentioned here today. While you're visiting us, sign up for the Change Navigator newsletter. You'll keep on top of all things change, and every month we are sharing exclusive content and resources only with our subscribers. So don't miss out. Sign up at ConnectedChange.com. Thank you for listening, and remember, it's never too late to change course.